chorus. Okay. Welcome to Southside Church. Service is going to start in 2 minutes, so please make your way to a seat and get comfortable.
Good morning, welcome to church. Why don't you stand with us as we sing?
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your fault, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When it feels like the dark lingers longer than the night, when the shadows feel like giants, are you chasing me down? Tell me, where could I run from your light? Where could I hide? And within your precious thoughts, there's no hiding from your love. Highs and lows, Lord, you're with me the way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Even so, Lord, your mercy is an even flow. You're too good to let me go. Should I dance on the heights or make my bed among the depths? Your mercy waits at every end, like you've planned it from the start. Should the dawn come with wings or find me far side of the sea, there your love still fastens me, ever closer to your heart. Oh, highs and lows, Lord, you're with me the way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Even so, Lord, your mercy is an even flow. Should I rise or should I fall? You are faithful through it all. You're too good to let me go. Surround me the way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Lord, you're with me through it all. Highs and lows, in the rhythms of the grace I know. Or should I fall? You are faithful through it all. You're too good to let me go.
Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name. And it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. with me.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to church. My name is Brianna, and when I'm not in here getting to do church with all of you, you'll probably find me on a Sunday morning in the lobby wearing a bright orange t-shirt and looking to answer any questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, feel free to join myself and the Next Steps team in the lobby. But also, if you want to reach out right now, you can take out your phone and text our phone number, the keyword hello. It's 604-670-3040. And when you do that, you just get a link back. You can ask any questions you might have about Southside, get connected here, and when you fill that out, you get a $5 Starbucks e-card sent to you. So definitely take the time to say hello this morning. So something I'm so excited to be able to invite you to is this coming Saturday from 10 to 12, August 28th, is a For This City citywide service day. So hundreds of Southsiders are coming together here and around the world to bless their communities. And here in Chilliwack, we have some really exciting options. We're packing backpacks for an entire school filled with students who are underprivileged and might not be able to afford their own school supplies. We are packing diaper bags filled with essentials for moms and babies coming into Chilliwack General Hospital and the Pregnancy Care Center, and they might not be able to leave with what they need for their baby. We're packing hygiene packs for women locally who are escaping the sex trade, and we're also Chilliwack's largest cleanup crew, which is pretty exciting to be able to say. And so that's not all of them, that's not all the information, but you can find out all the information by texting FTC to our phone number, 604-670-3040. You'll see all your options laid out, and you'll be able to find the right team for you, and I would love to see you there. So in the service right now, whether you're watching online or in person, I want to give us an opportunity just to pause and reflect on how good God is, everything He's doing through our church, through FTC, and through a service like this, and to give back financially. So one of the reasons I love to give to this church is because I can see the tangible change that is happening in people's lives and in their eternities. So if you want to join me today and give, maybe for the very first time, you can see all your giving options by texting GIVE to our phone number, 604-670-3040. You'll get a link back with all of your online giving options and in person. But no matter how you give today, I would just say congratulations. There is nothing that I would rather fund, and I am so excited for you to step into that today. And finally, I'm so excited to be able to invite you to something that we've called 101. So Pastor Mike and myself and our team, we've been working on a curriculum that is specifically designed for people who are new to our church, new to faith, maybe both, but it's definitely going to give you the core values of what this church is all about, what Jesus is about, and how we've taken His mandates for the church and created Southside. And so if that appeals to you, it's going to be a 3-week program. It's beginning September 19th, and we would love for you to be a part of it. And so far more details to come about that, but mark your calendars. I would love to see you out at 101. And lastly, I'm so excited to be able to introduce our speaker today. She's one of my very favorite people on the planet, and she has a message straight from the heart of God to all of us today. So as the lights come up, why don't you join me in welcoming Corinne Manis to the stage.
Well, this is the first time that I've preached from this brand new stage. Wow, it's awesome. I can see everybody. That's how we wanted it, so like you can make eye contact, well, sort of, the lights, right? So I can, maybe not in the back, but I can see your form. I love it. So those of you who don't know, I'm Pastor Mike's wife, and I just want to welcome you here, whether you're online or in-house. It's so good to be together as a big family. No matter where you're watching from, you're part of the Southside family, and we're glad you're here. So Mike and I were originally going to speak together last week and this week to do a little 2-part mini-series on what we would tell our 22-year-old selves if we could go back in time. So Mike and I, for those of you who know the Enneagram, Mike's a 3 and I'm a 9. So let me just show you a little picture of what it's like for a 3 and a 9 to do anything together, like seriously together, like sermon prep, for example. So Mike's a 3, and 3s, they approach everything head on. So Mike had his sermons written months in advance, had them on a Google Doc, all structured. Corinne come in here, blanks for me, and he would keep inviting me to this doc. Please just go and write things down. his stress was mounting, but I'm a 9. And my sermon prep was going on up here. I approach everything from the side. So I was asking people, what spoke to them, throwing out things that I would like to tell my 22-year-old self and seeing, what really landed with people. And I had about 800 things that I wanted to tell my 22-year-old self. And so I was trying to figure out how to have like one main point and 799 sub-points and, somehow give Mike a chance to speak. And so for those of you who don't know the Enneagram, let me give you a different picture of what sermon prep with Mike and I is like. So picture taking a grouchy Siamese cat and putting it with a golden retriever puppy in a small box together. And I'll just let you guys decide which one of us is the puppy and which one of us is the cat. Mike's the cat, if you needed a hint. So we decided to save Mike's sanity and speak separately. Clearly, I'm up here by myself, so at some point, the process broke down, and here I am. If you missed Mike's sermon last week, I just want to really encourage you to go watch it. What Pastor Mike would tell his 22-year-old self. I found it a very encouraging message, and I know you will too. So I'm happy to say that I have narrowed down my 800 things that I would tell my 22-year-old self to one thing. If I could go back in time today, what would I tell my 22-year-old self? It's very simply this: be brave. It's actually the same advice that I would give my 51-year-old self today. It's the same advice that I would give all of you, whether you're 12 or 22 or 52 or 92 or anywhere in between. Be brave. So I'm going to talk today about what it means to be brave physically, setting boundaries in our relationships and sticking to them. What it means to be brave emotionally, facing the pain of your past that's causing your present problems. And be brave spiritually. So first of all, be brave physically. Set boundaries in your relationships and stick to them. So I have to tell you that I have never felt brave. My whole life, I didn't look at the things that I was doing as courageous. In the absence of role models in my life, I made some up for myself, some imaginary role models, and they were the perfect Christian, the perfect woman, the perfect mom, the perfect wife. And I measured myself against those role models, against those standards. And of course, I always fell short. When I would look at myself, I wouldn't look at what I did. I would look at all of the ways that I could have done better. So I didn't feel brave. I thought I knew what courage looked like, and it wasn't me. Courage to me looked like the man in the arena. That Theodore Roosevelt quote. Mike has read it several times up here. He loves it. And every time I would hear him read that quote, I would see Mike as the man in the arena. His face covered with dust and sweat and blood. Because the things that Mike were doing, those were courageous things. He would run through concrete walls to achieve his goal. He could build these amazing things out of nothing, pioneering new trails all the time, rising to every challenge that came his way. And that's what courage looked like. Then something happened about 6 months into a counseling journey that I've been on. Now I'm just going to pause right there. And I know that there's probably some of you out there thinking, merciful heavens, every time she gets a microphone, she's just feelings. And you're not wrong. That does happen. But I've been on this journey for about a year now, regular counseling. And I have So I've been counseling with the amazing Dr. Keith Krall, and he's a psychologist out of Surrey. And I have learned some amazing things about myself. And it's been gut-wrenching at the same time, but also very incredible. So my hope in sharing my journey is that it will help and encourage some of you in your journey. So where was I? Oh yeah, my feelings. So about 6 months in to this counseling journey, something happened that started to change the way that I looked at myself. And for those of you who have never heard me speak before and you haven't heard my story, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. So in one session, I was talking about something that my dad had said to me when I was a young mom. So Mike and I had been married a few years. We had 2 of our 6 kids at the time, little Tori and little Lucas. And my dad said to me, "Corinne, your children are going to go the way of the devil, maybe even die, because you are disobeying the 5th commandment to honor your mother and father." Now, God never intended his words to be used like that, the way that they were used in my family growing up. You know, like whips to keep us in line, like this holy trump card so that you could be right. And in the process, just absolve yourself of responsibility and heap shame on someone else. God never meant his words to be used that way. But I was talking about that during one of my counseling sessions, and Dr. Krall said something that kind of stopped me in my tracks. It was very unexpected. He said, "Don't you think it was very brave of you to turn your back on the dysfunction of your past and build something different?" I swear, Dr. Krall's like Yoda. Like, just these statements that just blow your mind. But that made me think about my life and myself in a whole new way. I had never thought about it like that. I had never looked at how I had permanently shut the door to my family and the emotional chaos that they brought into my life. I didn't feel brave about that. Like, remember my perfect Christian role model, like she never would have done that. You know, I felt guilty and unforgiving, a bit like a coward, actually. But that unexpected comment that my counselor made, it was like this dim little light turned on inside my head. And as I reflected on it after that session and before my next one, because I really tried to do that, to ask God what he wanted to teach me so that we could, make progress, I came across that quote again, the man in the arena. But this time, it wasn't Mike in there, it was me. And I want to read it to you right now, the way I read it that day. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the person who points out how the strong woman stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends herself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if she fails, at least she fails while daring greatly, so that her place will never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And I felt like God spoke to me that day as I read that, when I saw myself in the arena, and he said, "You are brave." And I can't say very many things about myself with certainty, but now I can say that. I am brave, and so are you. There's so many of you who are brave and you don't even know it. You know, the fact that you're here today, that you got up and opened your laptop and started streaming this service, or you got in your car and you drove here, despite everything you've been through, despite everything you're going through right now, you're here. And you're brave to be here, because it takes courage to hope. And the fact that you're here shows me that you have hope, that with God, things can be different. Because just like me, when I was that young woman who turned her back, who closed the door permanently on the dysfunction of her past, just like me, by being here today, you're saying the shit ends with me. You're saying the family that I build is going to be different than the family that I grew up in. The addiction ends with me. The abuse ends with me. The chaos ends with me. The dysfunction of my past ends with me. With God, there's a hope for a better future. So for me, being brave physically meant setting boundaries with unsafe people and sticking to them. And it might mean something different for you. But I just want you to think about your relationships for a minute. If you set boundaries with certain people because of the negative stuff that they bring in your life, and they regularly ignore those boundaries or trample all over them, maybe it's time for you to be brave and to stick to the boundaries that you've set. Maybe you need to set the boundaries in the first place. And it's scary because you might be afraid that you're going to lose something, you're going to lose a relationship. But I just want you to ask yourself this. What is a relationship? Like, what makes up a relationship in the first place? Real relationships are built on trust. And the only way to build trust is by respecting the boundaries of another person and them respecting yours. They don't have to agree with your boundaries, but they have to respect them. Otherwise, there's no trust. And if there's no trust, there's no relationship there to begin with. And looking back on my life, if I had to point to the one thing that has made the biggest positive difference in my life, in what I have tried to build, the one thing, more than anything else, is this: having the courage to shut the door on people who brought emotional chaos into my life. So be brave physically. Set boundaries and stick to them. And secondly, be brave emotionally. And this is such a hard one. Counseling has showed me that physically, I've done some brave things in my life. But it's also shown me that emotionally, I've spent my whole life being a coward. I just never showed up in my life. I stuffed every emotion down and I kept my masks on. Being brave emotionally means facing the pain of your past that's causing your present problems. And it's really easy to say and really hard to do because it's scary and it's painful to start an inner journey. Like, we don't want to revisit painful places in our past that we've spent years trying to forget, as if we could. As a child, I learned, as we all do, how to put on masks that kept me safe. And my masks were the agreeable one, the one who doesn't ask for anything, the one who never rocks the boat. And your masks are different. But you learn to put on masks too, to protect yourself. And these patterns of self-protection, they keep us safe for a while. And then we grow up, and these same patterns that used to save us start to kill us. Because we all have this longing inside of us to be seen and loved for who we really are. Like the me behind the mask, the you behind the mask. So I just have to tell you guys, that last year, I was in a really tough place. I was feeling overwhelming anxiety, which is something that I had never felt before. I was having panic attacks. I didn't want to leave the house, so COVID actually worked out great for me. And I had this just deep sadness inside me that I couldn't explain. And I even had moments of rage. I felt so tied up in knots inside, and I did not know what to do. And so at 50 years old, I was emotionally brave for the first time in my life, and I asked for help. I sent an email to Dr. Krull, who had been recommended to me by a friend, asking if he would take me on. Because I knew that the only thing worse than facing the pain of thawing out inside was staying in that emotionally frozen place. And it was terrible. So maybe you're sitting here today and you're thinking, but Corinne, like, you're a Christian, and not just any Christian, you're a pastor's wife. Like, wasn't God enough? Shouldn't God be enough? Do you really need therapy? I need both, because this is what I believe, that God works miracles in many different ways. Like, I remember when Maddie was diagnosed with cancer. Some of you might not know Maddie. She's on staff here. She's on the worship band. Well, almost 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at that time, some well-meaning people told her, reject chemotherapy. You don't need chemotherapy. You don't need chemotherapy. What you do need is a lot of faith and maybe a little bit of CBD oil. And those people were sincere, but they were also wrong. Because this is what I believe, that God created the minds of some really brilliant people throughout history. And some of those people and those minds that he created discovered that a combination of chemicals could actually beat cancer. God worked through faith and chemotherapy to heal Maddie, and that was a miracle. And God is working through faith and therapy to help heal me, and that's a miracle. Getting help with our mental health stuff, help figuring out why we struggle with things like anxiety, depression, addiction, anger, or why we feel stuck in our sorrow. Getting help for those things is no different than going to the doctor for your physical health problems. It doesn't mean you lack faith. It means that you have faith that God can work miracles in many different ways. So if you feel tied up in knots, if you feel stuck or frozen on the inside, the most emotionally brave thing that you can do is ask for help. Whether you're 12 or 22 or 52 or 72 or 92, ask for help. Find a counselor. Sign up for Freedom Session. We run an amazing course right here for people who feel stuck. I think the number's up there. It should be up there. Text free. It's not, is it? There it is. Text free to 604-670-3040, and you can get more information. You're not signing up when you text in, but it'll give you more information about that. But I just encourage you to do that. and to remember that God is right there beside you, ready to work a miracle in your life. Be brave emotionally. Face the pain of thawing out. Your loved ones, they need the real you to show up. You need the real you to show up. The one behind the masks, the one that God created you to be. So be brave physically, set boundaries in your relationships and stick to them. Be brave emotionally. Face the pain of your past that is causing your present problems. And finally, be brave spiritually. I think a lot of us have the wrong idea about what it means to be brave spiritually. Now we have to wait for the longest 2 seconds in the history of the world while the speaker takes a drink. But maybe you're thinking today that being brave spiritually means, I just need to be grateful. I need to not dwell in the past. I need to think about the things in my life right now that I'm grateful for. And that sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds really Christian to say those things. But can I suggest that we have a slightly wrong idea of what gratitude is? And I think that we can do emotional damage to ourselves and to other people when we get gratitude wrong. Because here's a couple of things that gratitude isn't. So it isn't saying, I'm in pain, but other people have it worse, so I'm just going to be thankful. I want to read you something today, and it's from a book called The Choice by Dr. Edith Eva Eger. It's an amazing book. But she, as a young woman in World War II, survived a year in Auschwitz. And she lost her mom and her dad to the gas chambers. And at the end of the war, she was found by an American soldier in a pile of corpses, weighing 76 pounds. And this is what she says. There is no hierarchy of suffering. There's nothing that makes my pain worse or better than yours. No graph on which we can plot the relative importance of one sorrow versus another. People say to me, things in my life are pretty hard right now, but I have no right to complain. It's not Auschwitz. This kind of comparison can lead us to minimize or diminish our own suffering. Being a survivor, being a thriver requires absolute acceptance of what was and what is. If we discount our pain or punish ourselves for feeling lost or isolated or scared about the challenges in our lives, however insignificant these challenges seem to someone else, then we're still choosing to be victims. We're not seeing our choice. We're judging ourselves. I don't want you to hear my story and say, my own suffering is less significant. I want you to hear my story and say, if she can do it, then so can I. Gratitude isn't ignoring your pain because it's not as bad as someone else's. And gratitude also isn't saying this, I'm in pain from my past, but my life is pretty good now, so it's best not to dwell. And I want to just put this in real life context, using a story that Mike and I have already shared back in our January marriage series, where we did manage to preach together for a whole month. It was quite an accomplishment. So it's a story about a fateful 2.5-hour drive that Mike and I took last November to Kelowna. So leading up to this drive, my counseling sessions had brought up a lot of resentment inside of me. Resentment from our early years of marriage when Mike worked way too hard and way too much. And I felt like I had been a player on Team Mike, but I didn't have a teammate. I felt very alone, but I never said anything. Remember, I still had my masks on. I was the agreeable one, the one who never asked for anything, the one who never rocked the boat, right? So on this fateful trip, for 2.5 hours, I talked about all of the resentment and anger that I had repressed for decades. Doesn't that sound fun? I was definitely the grumpy cat in that scenario. But I want you to understand that I wasn't blaming Mike and I wasn't angry. I simply had to get it out. Things I should have said at the time, I needed to say now. I hadn't been honest with Mike about what was really going on inside me in those early years, about what I needed. I hadn't shown up. I'd stuffed everything down, kept my masks firmly in place, and that was on me. So I want you to consider for a minute the different ways that Mike potentially could have responded to my 2.5-hour talk. He could have said, "Why are you bringing all of this up? Like, be grateful that I didn't beat you or cheat on you. Like, there are women who have it way worse than you." And he also could have said, "Why are you bringing all of this up? Your life now is good. Why are you dwelling on the past?" So if Mike had responded in either of those ways, I want to tell you what I would have heard. I would have heard, "Your pain doesn't matter." I would have heard, "You don't matter. Keep your masks on. Keep the real you stuffed down and out of sight." But Mike didn't say either of those things. What he said was this: "I wholeheartedly support your resentment of me." What a champ. But do you know what I heard when he said that? I heard, "I see you. You are safe to take off your masks with me, and I will keep loving you no matter what's underneath." Acknowledging our pain, our sorrow, our anger can coexist with a heart full of gratitude. They aren't mutually exclusive things. Saying that we can't feel them both at the same time, it actually robs us of hope. And it robs the cross of its power to heal us. Because this is what gratitude is. It's holding in your hands at the same time all of your sorrow and God's loving presence. It's saying at the same time, I am suffering and no one ever cared for me like Jesus. It's saying at the same time, I'm in pain and I am not alone. Gratitude is the tremendous relief that we are not alone in our suffering. Whatever you're going through today, be brave. God's with you, and He's never, ever gonna leave you. And that's the beautiful message of the cross of Jesus Christ, that the God of the universe entered into the suffering of the human race, into your suffering and into my suffering. And more than that, He didn't enter into our suffering powerless or unwilling to help. His death and His resurrection, they mean that He's entered into our suffering with both the purpose and the power to heal us and make us whole. So a few months ago, when I asked my counselor, or when I knew I was going to be preaching today, and I asked my counselor what he would say, you got to ask Yoda. What would you say to your 22-year-old self? And he said something so beautiful. He said, I would say, God is unlike anyone you will ever know. Get to know Him. Get to know God. He's so gentle and He's so loving, and you don't ever need to feel ashamed in His presence. We don't love each other like God loves us. We sure don't love ourselves like God loves us. God is unlike anyone you will ever know. Get to know Him. Because God's in the business of healing hurting people. He's in the business of making broken people whole. He's in the business of making terrified people brave. He can bring peace out of chaos. I'm a living, breathing example of that. The Bible says it so beautifully. It says that he will take our ashes and he will give us beauty. That's what he does. Get to know him, because this is where it all comes together. Knowing that God is with you no matter what, that he loves you no matter what, that he will never, ever leave you, that is what makes us brave. No one ever cared for you like Jesus. You should get to know him, because he sees the real you, the you before the masks went on, and he loves what he sees. And there's an invitation that Jesus gives in the Bible, and it's an invitation he's still extending to us today. These are his words: "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest for your souls." Are you weary and burdened today? I just want to ask you to close your eyes and bow your heads right now, whether you're at home or in-house. Because I know that every week people tune in online, people come through our doors, and they have actually never even met Jesus. And I want to give you that chance to meet him this morning. So if you're here today or you're watching today and you feel done with trying to do everything on your own, if you feel weary and burdened, and today you know you need Jesus in your life and you want to ask him into your life, I just want you to put up your hand. Just put up your hand today, even if you're at home, wherever you are. Just put up your hand. God sees it. I see it. Okay, you can put them down. I just want to pray with you. And if you are someone who made that decision today to ask Jesus into your life, just pray along with me in your heart. Jesus, I need you in my life. I've been trying to do it on my own for too long. And today I just give my life to you. I give my heart to you. I thank you for the cross. I thank you that you died and rose again to heal me, to make me whole, and to walk with me. In Jesus' name, amen. And now for all of us, we're going to end with a song. And I don't want you to leave. Like, this isn't just something that we toss in at the end of a service. This is part of the service. And it's a way that, like, together we can just create a moment with God. You know, that we can give him some space to come and speak to us. To just say, God, like, I need you, and I don't make enough time for you to speak to me. And so that's what we want to do together today. So if you could stand, the band's just going to play a closing song.
Worry if my life would sing a song, if I have a testimony, if I have anything at all. No one ever cared for Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old and gray and all my days are numbered on the earth, let it be known, in you alone my joy was found. Oh, my joy, my joy. Let my children tell their children, let this be their memory, that all my treasure was in heaven, and you were everything to me. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old and gray and all my days are numbered on the earth, let it be known, in you alone my joy was found. I found my joy. I'm still in love. You're still enough for me. Still all I want. You're still my everything. I'm still in love. You're still enough for me. Still all I want. You're still my everything. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old